Hey guys, I am back with a new video and this is going to be another video for my style exploration series. This time I will be exploring watercolor pencils. So let's get started. I've never actually come across a fashion illustration done in watercolor pencil, so finding an artistic inspiration was hard. I ended up looking through artworks that are not fashion illustrations, but they were still done with watercolor pencils, or at least that's what it said on the description. And I used to not like the pencil marks that would still be visible even when you did lay down the water to blend the pencil together to create the watercolor effect. However, when I saw some of the artworks, when I went and searched up for watercolor pencil art, I actually really liked the effect it had, and I wanted to use that technique in my own fashion illustration and see if I would end up changing my mind and liking it. I also found some fashion illustrations done with watercolors and pencils, not necessarily watercolor pencils, but it gave off the same effect as the other artworks I've seen so far, so I took that as an inspiration. The problem was that I found the artwork and clicked the link, but it didn't take me to a blog or a website which showed the name of the artist. The illustrations didn't even have an artist's signature, so I unfortunately do not know who created those beautiful fashion illustrations. I really like the style as well, so it would have been so great if I were able to find out who the artist was. If you guys know who the artist is for these illustrations, I would appreciate it if you would let me know. Otherwise, that's alright, I guess. So the idea I had in mind for this particular illustration was that for the skirt part, I would try and use that technique I saw on the internet, and you will see me do that later, but for now, this is the good old sketching part and transferring the sketch onto the watercolor paper using the light box, which are the two main steps in my drawing process. I mean, if you guys have been watching my videos, you'll always see me do this: the rough sketch, then the light box, then the clean sketch. It gets a little bit repetitive, but that's my process. I don't really think I'd change up my sketching process since I haven't thought of other ways or methods aside from this current one. Besides, this sketching process really works for me, so I might stick to it for a while. Okay, now we're in the coloring process, and I think it's quite self-explanatory how to use watercolor pencils. I mean, you lay down the pencil on the page, and you can, if you want, add water to the pencil marks using a brush, then you get the watercolor effect. What I tend to do is, if the page is still damp, I color with the pencil so that I get really saturated lines, which help create the shading in the picture. You can kind of see me do that in the video itself. The watercolor pencils I am using are, by the way, a really crap and cheap quality watercolor pencils. Some of you guys might know that some of my art supplies are cheap and not even artist quality materials, and like some of them are from the dollar store. Sometimes with those cheap art materials, it's a hit and miss. So far, I've been pretty lucky to score decent quality art materials for a bargain of a deal, but for this one, it was just a miss. The brand is Aquarel. I don't recommend it at all. I've honestly never heard of the brand before, but I got this set of pencils when I was 13 or 14 years old, and it's the only set of watercolor pencils I have in my art supply stash, so this is what I'm using for this video. I feel like the quality did affect the way the illustration came out in the end. You can kind of see that the colors are not vibrant, and I found it really hard to make the colors bright. However, speaking on a positive note about how this illustration came out, I only really liked how I colored the skin, and that's about it. I don't like how the dress came out. It looks way too flat. The hair is alright, but I feel like I could have done better with it. Oh well. With the skin, I used the pencil to outline, and I love how it turned out. Originally, I was going to use my black fine liner like how I did with my previous videos for this series, but when I placed the water and started creating the watercolor effect on the skin, the brown that I used was somehow pushed aside instead of being blended with a flesh color. Technically, that wouldn't be ideal for a watercolor pencil because you want the colors to blend together instead of being pushed aside. But because that happened, it created a subtle outline on the skin, and I thought that looked awesome. So in the end, I emphasized the outline by going over the drawing with a watercolor pencil. But that time, I left it dry and didn't add the water. That was kind of like my happy accident. I did the same thing for the hair and the dress, but it didn't turn out the same way, hence why I'm not too happy about it. I also added some pink colors to the knees and the shoulders, kind of like a blush. I might have overdone the shoulders a bit, but I really like how the knees turned out, which sounds odd saying it out loud, but I might try that again for future artworks. I've actually seen a lot of manga artists and illustrators do that for their drawings, which is why I wanted to give it a try. It kind of gives some sort of innocent look to a character. As for the skirt, I'm going to briefly talk about the technique I tried. So, from the artworks I saw on the internet, it looks like they started by coloring with the pencils in streaks, then added water on top of that. So it kind of gave a soft wash with the pencil streaks showing underneath. I tried that the first time, but the pencils ended up blending too much with the water. So what I did was that while the paper was wet, I redrew the pencil marks, which made the lines appear more vibrant. I think the technique would work well for hair and when rendering tulle, or maybe a really nice pleated texture. So overall, I'm fine with this exploration. It's not something I would like to continue, to be honest, but maybe if I got better quality watercolor pencils, I would have a different and better experience. The only thing I'm taking away from this, however, is how I colored the skin, which I can't get enough of. Anyway, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and the third part in my exploration series, which, I mean, wasn't exactly what I was hoping it would be, but lesson learned, I guess. With that said, please check the description box for any of my social media links. There are also the materials I used in this video, as well as an FAQ, and my email, which you can use to contact me for any questions or commission inquiries. That is it. Please give this video a thumbs up if you did like it, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.